Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're delving into the life of Vito Genovese, a notorious figure in American organized crime. From his early days in Italy to his eventual downfall, this is a story of ambition, power, and the perils of a criminal life. Let's get into it. Vito Genovese was born on November 27, 1897 in Rosiglino, a small town in the province of Naples, Italy. Growing up in a modest family, the lure of prosperity and a better life were ever-present motivations. His early years in Italy did not particularly hint at the powerful mafia figure he would later become. The limited opportunities in his hometown, however, created a sense of urgency that ultimately contributed to his desire to seek fortunes elsewhere. In 1913, at the age of 15, Genovese immigrated to the United States, settling in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, New York. Like many Italian immigrants of the time, he came in pursuit of the American dream. However, the realities of immigrant life were harsh. Limited employment opportunities coupled with language barriers made it difficult for Genovese to find legitimate means of income. This led him to associate with those who operated on the fringes of legality. Upon his arrival in the U.S., Genovese initially became involved in low-level crimes, such as petty theft, illegal gambling, and small-time racketeering. His activities eventually caught the attention of local organized crime figures, and by the early 1920s, he became acquainted with Lucky Luciano, a young up-and-coming mobster who would later become one of the most influential mafia bosses in history. This association would prove to be pivotal in Genovese's criminal career. His increasing reputation as a reliable and ruthless operative drew him closer to the core activities of the Mafia. Under the mentorship of Luciano, Genovese began to understand the intricacies of organized crime, how to run illicit businesses, how to manipulate people, and most importantly, how to instill fear. As he ascended the ranks of the American Mafia, the lessons and connections from his early life would play a crucial role. Vito Genovese was on his way to becoming a name synonymous with organized crime, setting the stage for one of the most notorious criminal careers in American history. The Prohibition era, which lasted from 1920 to 1933, offered fertile ground for organized crime to flourish in the United States. The ban on the production, sale, and transport of alcoholic beverages created a black market that the Mafia was all too willing to supply. Vito Genovese, already acquainted with the workings of criminal enterprises, seized this opportunity to escalate his involvement in more lucrative ventures. During this period, Genovese focused mainly on the operation of speakeasies, illegal establishments that sold alcohol, and on the distribution of bootleg liquor. His operations were not only lucrative, but were also key in forging alliances with other major figures in the underworld. Through cunning violence and a keen business sense, Genovese was able to expand his influence and wealth considerably during the Prohibition years. The Prohibition era also saw Genovese solidify his relationships with some of the most notorious figures in the American Mafia. His friendship with Charles "Lucky" Luciano turned into a fruitful partnership, and he became closely aligned with other influential mobsters like Frank Costello and Meyer Lansky. These alliances were instrumental in consolidating Genovese's power within the Mafia hierarchy. Luciano, in particular, was a major influence and benefactor. As Luciano rose to become one of the most powerful Mafia bosses, Genovese became one of his trusted lieutenants. Their friendship was based not just on personal rapport, but also on a shared vision for the Mafia, a more organized, business-like operation that extended beyond petty crimes and local rackets. The two envisioned an empire that would cross state lines and even international borders. Despite his rise in the criminal underworld, Genovese was not immune to the reach of the law. In the late 1920s, he was arrested multiple times on charges ranging from illegal gambling to homicide. However, due to a combination of lack of evidence, witness tampering, and possibly corrupt relationships with law enforcement, he managed to avoid long-term imprisonment. Following the end of Prohibition, Vito Genovese found himself well-positioned to move up the ranks within the American Mafia. With the profits earned from bootlegging, he invested in various other criminal ventures, such as racketeering, gambling, and loan sharking. By the mid-1930s, Genovese had earned the position of a capo, or captain, within the Luciano crime family. This was a significant step, as it meant that he was now in charge of his own crew of soldiers and responsible for major operations. In 1936, Luciano was convicted on charges of compulsory prostitution and was sent to prison. This opened up new opportunities for Genovese, who then became the acting underboss of the crime family. One of the darker chapters in Genovese's rise to power was his alleged involvement in Murder Incorporated, the infamous Mafia hit squad responsible for hundreds of killings. Although direct evidence linking him to the group is scarce, it is widely believed that Genovese employed the services of the hit squad to eliminate rivals and threats to his power. His connections to Murder Incorporated not only served to eliminate opposition, but also further instilled a sense of fear and respect among his peers and subordinates. Vito Genovese was reputedly involved in a series of high-profile murders that significantly boosted his status within the Mafia. The most notable was his alleged role in the 1934 killing of Ferdinand the Shadow Baccia, a murder committed over a money dispute. Although Genovese was charged with the crime, he managed to escape to Italy to avoid prosecution, demonstrating both his cunning and his ruthlessness. His return to the United States in the 1940s after World War was marked by other violent actions designed to eliminate rivals and consolidate power. These actions were often brutal but effective, serving both to solidify his control over various criminal enterprises and to cement his reputation as a man not to be crossed. One of the most pivotal events in Vito Genovese's criminal career, and indeed in the history of the American Mafia, was the Appalachian meeting in November 1957. The meeting was held at the rural estate of mobster Joseph Joe the Barber Barbara in Appalachian, New York, and it brought together around 100 Mafia leaders from across the United States. The aim was to address various issues, including power dynamics, territorial claims, and the future direction of organized crime in America. Genovese had a vested interest in this meeting as he had recently seized control of the Luciano crime family, renaming it the Genovese family. He was keen on solidifying his position as one of the preeminent Mafia bosses in the United States. However, the meeting turned out to be disastrous. Acting on a tip, local and federal law enforcement raided the estate, arresting many of the attendees, including Genovese. The event was a public relations fiasco for the Mafia and brought unprecedented scrutiny from the federal government. The immediate aftermath of the Appalachian meeting was a slew of arrests and increased pressure from law enforcement agencies, particularly the FBI. Genovese found himself at the center of this renewed focus. His arrest at Appalachian made headlines, damaging his reputation and calling into question his ability to lead without attracting the attention of the authorities. After his conviction on drug trafficking charges, Vito Genovese was sent to the United States Penitentiary, Atlanta, where he would spend the remainder of his life. Vito Genovese died on February 14, 1969, from a heart attack. His death marked the end of an era for the American Mafia, and particularly for the Genovese crime family. And that wraps up the incredible yet cautionary tale of Vito Genovese. From rags to riches and back to rags, his life offers a dark glimpse into the American dream gone awry. If you found this story captivating, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more intriguing history. See you next time.